speaking of teams that are also impacted by Tom Brady, we have to go to the New England Patriots. The New England Patriots, this has been one frenzy of an offseason for the New England Patriots. The New England Patriots finished 7-9 last year. They missed the playoffs for the first time since 2008. And there's a great adage in life, which is experience is the best teacher. And Charles Darwin once said, it's not the strongest that survives, nor is it the most intelligent. It's the one that's the most adaptable to change. Bill Belichick finally saw the light. He finally realized that the NFL is changing and you can no longer afford to cut corners and always be parsimonious. You have to be willing to spend money to win in the NFL. You have to be willing to do that. And his MO for his entire career, he's been known to be ruthless for trading guys prematurely to accrue draft capital. Obviously, the one exception is Stephon Gilmore, where he was willing to spend in free agency to acquire an asset. But that's normally not his style of coaching and being the GM. And he finally realized, seeing the type of success that Brady had, seeing the type of success that these teams are having going out and being proactive and aggressive in free agency, that that's the way to do it. You have to evolve. You have to be able to adapt. We saw in 2015, the Patriots cut Chandler Jones after he finished that season with 12 and a half sacks. They dealt him away to the Arizona Cardinals. That's been his work. That's been his MO. And so it was easier to do that when you had a guy like Tom Brady who enabled Belichick to coach freely and operate how he saw fit. Because when you saw Tom Brady taking discounts and being willing to grant the Patriots more flexibility in cap room, there was really no other excuse for the other guys down the line to go against that. And what we've seen is that in less than 24 hours on Monday, the Patriots guaranteed $137.5 million to players, placing them second in NFL history for the most guaranteed money in a free agent signing period. Again, easier for Greg Popovich as the coach of the San Antonio Spurs to berate and belittle Tim Duncan and Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili. It's easier to go down the line and just light up into all the players when those stars are being willing to take the brunt of the criticism. But at one point, Kawhi Leonard said, hey, you know what? I don't want to be a part of this. I don't like this coaching style. I don't need this anymore. And he got up out of town. And he left the San Antonio Spurs. So the Patriots enter this offseason with the fourth most cap space in the NFL with about $57 million. And what do? Their first major acquisition, they sign the former Tennessee tight end Jonnu Smith. They signed the Chargers star tight end Hunter Henry. And 4 years, $50 million to Jonnu Smith, which was the second largest contract the Patriots have doled out on an average salary basis in over a decade. Again, the only other exception is Stephon Gilmore. Jonnu Smith had career highs in receptions, receiving yards, and touchdowns this past season. Hunter Henry, a 3-year, $37.5 million contract, had over 60 catches for the Los Angeles Chargers last year, second most receptions for his career on the team, third most receiving yards and touchdowns on the team. They were willing to spend on wide receivers. Nelson Aguilar, a 2-year, $26 million deal. Kendrick Bourne from the 49ers, a 3-year, $22 million deal to help add that vertical aspect that the Patriots were missing for Cam Newton last year. Then they signed Matthew Judon, from the Baltimore Ravens to a 4-year, $56 million deal. And the reason why that was an important signing is because the Patriots tallied just 24 sacks last year. And this was a guy in Judon who was one of only 3 outside linebackers to amass at least 50 tackles, at least 5 sacks, and at least 20 quarterback hits this past season. That's big. They signed Jalen Mills, safety out of the Philadelphia Eagles. They also signed Devon Godshaw, who was from the Miami Dolphins, who clogs the lane. They have gone out and have spent money on these pieces. And now you've got Dante Hightower and Patrick Chung likely opting back into this season when they opted out last year. And so now this offense is much more electric. It's much more explosive. And Cam Newton finally has some offensive pieces that he can hit. His most successful season, when he won the MVP in 2015 with the Carolina Panthers, his most go-to target was a tight end in Greg Olsen. So now you're going to almost play an offense reminiscent of the Rob Gronkowski, Aaron Hernandez days, where you've got Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry acting as that safety blanket right in the middle of the field every single time. And now you've got Nelson Aguilar and Kendrick Bourne's upgrades on the outside to add that vertical threat for Cam Newton. It's going to be a much changed offseason. And they acquired a right tackle, Trent Brown, from the Las Vegas Raiders. This team has been upgrading all facets of their team. And listen, there's no rest for the weary. And Bill Belichick had to look himself in the mirror and be willing to discard his antiquated ways and say, I have to adapt. And now the Patriots are priming themselves for a major resurgence in 2021. And again, it's interesting to just see how quickly things change and how quickly the NFL evolves, how quickly players, teams, coaches and GMs have to evolve and quickly adapt when they're seeing the type of money that players are commanding and how that translates to winning. Oftentimes, the Patriots never spent these exorbitant amounts of money before. Now they're willing to do it. And now we're seeing perhaps the positive ramifications of that and the positive consequences that can come of it.